You're listening to Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe of Torch in Houston, Texas. This is the Everyday Judaism podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Frigid morning. You're all here. It's amazing. It's such a huge blessing that even in sub 32 degrees, everyone's here. It's amazing. It's so beautiful. We are beginning Siman Mem Beis 42. Siman 42, the laws of proper conduct for a meal. Now, we've mentioned previously, we talked about the laws of breaking bread, of the blessing of Hamotzi. Now we're continuing to talk about the laws of the meal. And mi sheyesh lo behemos o ofos, one who has animals or fowl, shemin zona seim olav, and he is responsible for feeding them. Osur lo lechol klum, it is forbidden to eat anything ad sheyitin lehem machal, until you give them food. This is a mitzvah in the Torah. So the verse states, "V'nasati esev b'sadcha levemtecha ve'achalta v'savata." The verse in the Torah states as follows: "I shall provide grass in your fields for your cattle, and you will eat, and you will be satisfied." Scholars, what do we know about the Torah? There's nothing random in the Torah. Why does the Torah say feed your animal before it says feed you? Higdima Torah machal behem al machal adam. We see that in this verse, the Torah precedes mention of the animal's food before mention of mankind's food. Okay, so we see that you have to feed your animal. If you have a dog, you have a cat, you have a bird, whatever animal you have that are dependent on your feeding them, you're obligated, you're not allowed to eat food until you feed your animals. Velashtia, however, regarding drinking, Adam Kodem, mankind, a person comes first. The chsiv, as the verse states, shtei v'gam gmalecha ashke. As the verse states regarding Eliezer, when Rivka was giving him food, it says, shtei, you drink, v'gam gmalecha ashke, and then your animals will give to drink. So we learn from that when it comes to drinking, mankind comes first. V'chein ksiv. This can likewise be learned from that which is written, "V'hishkiso es ha'edav es bi'iram," and you shall give drink to the assembly and to their animals. When it comes to drinking, mankind comes first. When it comes to eating, animals come first. Now we continue to halacha number 2. Lo yochal adam lo yishte. A person should not eat or drink derech rav sanus, in a gluttonous manner. Lo yochal me'umad. A person should not eat while standing. Lo yishte me'umad. A person shouldn't drink while standing. V'yehei shulchan naki, and a person's table should be clean when they eat. U'mechuse yafe, and covered nicely. Afilu im ein lo le'echol, even if he has nothing to eat. Rak davar she'eino chashav, only but something which is insignificant. Lo yechos prusa gdola kebetza, a person should not hold a large quantity of food that is larger than the size of an egg in his hand. V'yocha mimena, and eat directly from your hand. V'yitlosh mimena biyado shenis, and tear with the other hand. Lo yishte kos yain bepam achas, a person shouldn't drink wine with one gulp. V'im shasa, and if a person does, hareze gargaron, that is considered a glutton. B'shnei pam, drinking by lifting a cup twice, bringing it to his mouth. Zehu derech eretz, this is a proper manner. Ub'shlosha pamim, but if a person takes a drink by lifting his cup 3 times, drinking a small amount each time, hareze migase aruch, this is considered haughty, it's considered arrogant. Imlo, these classifications hold true unless kishu kos gadol b'yosef, it's a very large cup, then it makes sense. Yachol lishtoso afilu bekama pamim, he can drink it even several times. V'chein kos katan me'od, even so too a very, very small cup. Yachol lishtos bepam achas, then he can drink it with one gulp. It's a little shot glass that you can drink with one gulp. It's amazing to see how when we talk about the laws of how to eat a meal properly, it tells us about the midos. It tells us about how to eat properly. I want to share with you an incredible story that I have shared before, and it's something that I'm so proud of that I need to talk about it. So let's talk about this. So Firstly, is that I believe that Kiddush, Kiddush that we have in synagogue Shabbos morning, where they put out a beautiful spread of food, and we wait for the rabbi to make Kiddush. So it's one of my pet peeves. I don't like when people grab the food before the rabbi makes Kiddush. Don't touch the food. The food's not going to run away. But people eat with their eyes, and they put everything on their plate, and then, as you know, most people leave half of their plate, and it's wasting. It's wasteful, and I think that it's also it's a person who perhaps is uncontrollable to their urges. Right? Just take it easy. So I've talked this with my children many times. I said, before the rabbi makes Kiddush, you don't touch anything, nothing. Don't even touch the plate. There's no need to take a plate. The rabbi makes Kiddush, then you can touch the food. Okay. So one Shabbos, I'm in shul. We finish davening. Everyone goes to the Kiddush room, and we're waiting for the rabbi to come in and to recite the Kiddush on the wine. And my children know I don't touch anything till the rabbi makes Kiddush. And out of the corner of my eye, I see my son is well positioned right in front of the tray of babka, the chocolate babka, and he is eyeing his pieces, but he knows it's not appropriate to take before the rabbi recites the Kiddush. Now everybody else does. Okay, they have their own character measure, but in our we're not judging anybody else. But this is our thing. This is our mishagas. So fine. So I see him from them. I don't show him. He doesn't see that I see him at all, my son. And he is just like, you can see the temptation going through his veins, through his eyes, and he's looking at those delicious pieces of babka that are slowly being taken off the tray, put onto people's plates. And, the rabbi finally walks in to recite the Kiddush, and there are about 3 pieces left on the tray. And the rabbi picks up his glass, and another piece of the babka is taken, and now there's only 2 pieces left. And the rabbi begins the blessing, Vishamru v'nei Yisrael es HaShabbos, and he starts reciting the verses, and another piece is taken, and there's just 1 more piece left. And my son is looking around, and he's hoping that nobody else is going to take away that last piece of cake that's left. And finally, Borei Priha, and someone takes that last piece of cake, Hagafen, and you can see his face of like despair, of disappointment. And I was beaming with joy, with pride. What an incredible avoda, what an incredible work of character. You know something's wrong, you know something you shouldn't do, but you're going to lose out. You're not going to have a piece of cake, and now what's going to be? And you still don't do it, no matter what. This is a child of unbelievable character. So he didn't see that I saw. He didn't see that I saw that entire struggle. And later on, we had our meal at our home with all of our guests, and I said, before we begin, I need to make an announcement. And I told them over the story. And I said, after Shabbos, I'm going to take my son to the store and buy him an entire babka for himself. He deserves such a reward. And sure enough, I picked him up from school on Monday morning, took him to the store, bought him a babka, and of course he shared it with all of his class. And I don't even know if he had a single piece left after, but it was a tremendous sign of self-control, and I think of a really incredible character. Very, very proud of my son that he was able to withstand that challenge. But I think that this story can give us a little bit of an insight as to how we should be in control of our gluttonous tendencies. You see, sometimes we just want to grab the food. The halacha tells us, take it easy. Food's not going to run away. There's a proper way to eat. There's a proper way. My rabbi would always talk about this, that you have to have something called nechbadus, a self-respect. Self-respect. Imagine if you have, has anyone ever seen a picture of the Queen of England eating food? Never. You will never find a single picture of the Queen of England. Why? Because it's undignified for her to eat in front of a camera. Food is a very intimate thing. You don't eat in front of the cameras. She eats in private. There are no cameras allowed. No one should see how she's eating. My rabbi says that we need to carry ourselves like royalty. He says never to eat with your hands. So one of the rabbinic students says, but Rabbi, pizza. How do you eat pizza without your hands? It's impossible. Got to fold the pizza, enjoy the pizza, right? He says, eat it with a knife and fork. He says, yeah, but you can't eat pizza with a knife and fork. He says, so don't eat it. A person has to know. Okay, now you have to know where you are. You have to know, who you are. But to just give ourselves an idea of what it means to be dignified, to eat in a proper fashion, to eat. Yeah, people, when they go to the restaurant, then they make sure that they're, all prim and proper. But even a person themselves, alone, in their home, should eat with proper dignity. Not because I'm in front of other people. For myself. Because I'm a human being, a creation of God. I think that's also part of the halacha here. It's not only about what you eat that it be kosher, but the way in which you eat. To have a proper, dignified fashion of eating. The halacha number 3 says, Lo yishoch prus, a person should not bite into a piece of bread, v'yenicheo al gabe hashochan, and put it down onto the table directly, or yitnei lachavero, or give it to his fellow, or lesochkara, or into a serving dish, ki shema hu ma'us lachaver, because maybe it's repulsive to someone else, meaning be considerate of other people. V'lo yishte mikos v'yitin lachaver lishtos hamotar, and don't drink from a cup and then give it to someone else to drink. Ki yesh l'chol echad liyizar, because every person should take care shelo lishtos mishiyurei kos, not to drink from what is left of a cup, sheshas chavero, from what his fellow man drank, v'zeh shama machmas habusha, and this person to whom he is giving the cup may, due to the embarrassment involved in refusing the cup, yishta bal korchi, he might drink it, and it may be repulsive to such to another person. Person has to be very conscientious and very thoughtful to someone else. It's not so appropriate for a person to just share your cup. And this, by the way, when you're in someone else's home and they make kiddush, the host who recites the kiddush should drink from a different cup and shouldn't share everyone a little bit of the wine from kiddush from the same cup that he drank. Pour it into a different cup and drink from that cup, and then share the wine with others from a different cup. Lo yehei adan kapten b'sudas. A person should not have a severe attitude at his meals. Ki ha'orchim ubnei habayis misbayishim oz lechol. Because then the guests and the members of the household will be reluctant to eat. Ki choshvim pen misrakes. Person he's so upset, he's so irate about something, and no one's going to want to eat. No one's going to have an appetite. Umak bidal chilosam, and is annoyed by their eating. So a person has to be careful. By the way, that's not a healthy way to eat. Not like you're just worried and concerned. A person should always make it that the meal be with a pleasantness, and there should be a friendly, loving environment where everyone is eating. Ein mesichin b'seuda. A lot of what we're saying here, by the way, today, with modern medicine, they say that it is dangerous to eat food that is not clean. So that already the halacha addressed. Don't have a clean table. Right? You stop at a rest stop. Put your food down on that table. Oh, it's disgusting. You have no idea what was there. Right? All of the things that we learn today of being sanitary is what the halacha was concerned about thousands of years ago. But additionally, many people talk while they're eating. Ein misichin b'seuda. The halacha says, do not converse while eating during a meal. Afilu b'divrei Torah, even words of Torah. Mipnei hasakana, because there is a danger involved. Shema yakdim kana laveshet, lest the food enter the windpipe instead of the esophagus. It's dangerous. Va'afilu mishnis atesh, even one who sneezes, osur lomer la'asusa, it's forbidden to say, zu gesund, to good health, nazdarovia, whatever it is, labriut, whatever a person says after someone sneezes, a person should be very, very careful with food in your mouth. It could be very dangerous. Avol shelo b'shas achila, if it's not while you're actually eating, mitzvah lomar ala shulchan aruch Torah, when you're not eating, when you're not with food in your mouth, it is a mitzvah to recite words of Torah at the meal. V'yesh lizar b'zeh, a person should be very, very careful about this. Uminag tov, it is a proper custom, lomar achar achilas prusas hamotzi, to recite after eating the piece of bread upon which the hamotzi blessing was recited, mizmor leDavid Hashem ro'i lo echsar, to recite chapter 23 in Psalms, which King David says, a psalm by David, Hashem is my shepherd, I shall not lack. Shehu Torah, because that constitutes words of Torah. V'gam tefillah al mazonosav, and also the prayer for one's sustenance is also a word of Torah. Well, after the conclusion of the meal, before reciting the grace after meal, it is proper to say the Psalm 137 on the rivers of Babylon. And on Shabbos and Yom Tov, and all the days that we don't recite special supplications, and Al Naras Bavel is not recited, Omrim Shir Hamalos B'Shuv Hashem, it is proper to say chapter 126, where we recite a song of ascent when Hashem will return as Shivas Tzion to Zion. When one studies by the table from a book, you read Dvar Torah, you read something to share with those who are around the table with you. Tzorech lahashgiach me'od ki shchiach lios basfarim toloim ktanim. He says, be very vigilant, because it's common, at least in the olden days, that there were small worms in these books. The paper isn't like the paper we have today, special treated paper. It used to be that they were wormified. V'yuchal lavo lidei isur chas v'sholom, and then those worms can go on your table. It can get on your food, and heaven forbid be a prohibition that one violates. Halacha number 6, shnaim sheyoshvun al shulchan, two people that are sitting at a table and eating a meal, afilu kol echad ka'or shelo lefanav, even if each has their own dish, their own plate in front of them, o mine peros, or they have fruits in front of them, sheyesh l'kol echad chelko lefanav, mikol makom hagadol poshet yado tchila. It is proper for the more prominent one of the two to eat first. You wait. V'hasholech yado bifnei mi shegadol mimeno harei gargaron. And one who reaches out for the food before the more prominent one is considered a glutton. This is a general rule that we see now in halacha, but it's proper etiquette. You don't eat before before the host. You're served food, you wait for the host. I think this is not. It's proper halachically, but it's also proper etiquette. You don't eat before the host eats, right? So I remember when I came to my in-laws, and I was engaged, and it was Friday night. I'm there for the first time with the family, with my wife's family, and my father-in-law looks at me. He says, "Everything okay?" I said, "Everything's great." He says, "So why aren't you eating?" I said, "Because you didn't start eating yet." He says, "What do you mean?" I said, I'm not eating before you eat. And he says, "Okay." So he started eating quickly. He says, "Okay, now you can eat." And that since then became the thing. Like my father-in-law, as soon because he's still cutting up the Challah Friday night. He's still, taking his time, getting everyone's getting settled in. I wouldn't touch the food till the master, till the the head of the table, till the host eats. This is appropriate conduct, and a person should be very cautious, even if you're eating with someone else. The person who is more prominent, and that could be prominence of age, prominence of wisdom, that person should begin eating first. If two people are eating from one dish, and one of them stopped eating momentarily to take a drink, So he stopped for a second to take a drink or to do something. It is proper for the second person to wait for him. Don't continue eating. By the time you're right. So, for example, this happens many times. You're eating in a restaurant with people, and your food comes out first for whatever reason. It's my luck. I don't know why. Whenever I'm in a restaurant, they bring me my food first. And I'm like, I can't eat it first because you got to wait for everybody to get their food. It's not nice. I'm done before everyone gets their food. That wouldn't be appropriate. However, if there are 3 people eating from one dish and one of them paused momentarily, ein hashnayim poskim b'shvil ha'echas, the 2 do not need to stop for the one who stopped. So this is very, very interesting halachas teaching us the proper etiquette of how one should conduct themselves when eating a meal. You're eating a meal with other people, have a moment of patience. Eat together with the other person. Don't eat because you're hungry, because you want to eat when the other person's food either hasn't been served or they take a break from eating for a minute. You take a break as well. It should be together. Now, there's something special about eating a meal together. A very dear friend of mine, he said he loves to go for lunch with people. I said, why? It takes so much time. He says, but you always see throughout the history of the Torah that when people ate together, it was a time of bonding. It was a time of closeness, of connection. Eating a meal with someone is something very special. It's a time of developing a close relationship with that person. So utilize it, not to just eat, I got my free meal because they're treating me. No, it's a time to bond and to develop a close relationship. Yeah, over the food. The food is just the sustenance for our body, but it's more than just that. It's a bond and a bridge between people. Not only is destroying food forbidden in the Torah, because the Torah tells us that a person should bal tashchis, a person is not allowed to destroy food. It is also forbidden to act in a way that denigrates the gift of food that Hashem has bestowed upon us. The following 4 seifim discuss the parameters of these 2 prohibitions. Number 1, osa adam tzarachav bepas. A person may use bread for his needs, v'hani mili. However, this permit applies only dilo mimo isbe, that he does not render the bread now to be repulsive. He's going to ruin the bread. Avol midi dimo isbe loy. If the bread becomes repulsive and nobody wants to eat the bread now, then a person should not do something with their bread. Now, what does that mean? Sometimes people make designs out of bread. People make today out of food. They make unbelievable designs. I remember we had once a program. We had someone make a torch logo out of a watermelon. Right? It's really special. I can show you the picture. It really is special. It has a beautiful thing. But I made sure, I said, but the entire watermelon needs to be eaten. It's nice that they made the green part, the outside of the watermelon into a logo, but the rest of the food should be eaten. It shouldn't be wasted. It's not a hobby. It's not a toy. Food is a gift from Hashem. A person needs to deal with food in a proper fashion. Hilkach, therefore, ein somchem ba'asakara. One should not support a dish with bread. Im him le'adavar, if the dish is filled with an item. She'im yipol alapas yimayis, because if that thing tips over. So, for example, soup. Don't put soup next to your bread. The soup is going to spill. It's going to spill on the bread, and then no one's going to want to eat the bread. It's going to make it repulsive. Soggy bread is not delicious. She'im yipol alapas yimayis, because ochlin eze tafshil im chatichos pas. When one is eating any cooked food with pieces of bread, ve'apas hu lo b'makam kaf, and now the bread is in place of a spoon. Sometimes you use bread as like a scooper. People do this today for hummus, right? Those of you who love hummus, like I do, or trina, so you use bread as like a scoop for the, right? So listen to this. Tzorich lizar, a person has to be very cautious. Lechol bechol pam k'tzas min hapas, to eat a little bit, and every time you scoop with the bread, to eat a little bit of bread with it. Ve'hanishalo min hapas, and anything that remains of the bread, gam kein yochal osa achakach, to make sure you eat all of the bread. So that means don't use bread is the greatest gift. The greatest gift. It's the highest level of our blessings of food because it takes the most work to create bread. It is an 11-step process of making bread, from the plowing to the from the plowing all the way for the flour to grow, and the winnowing and the grinding and everything, the entire process of kneading and baking, all of it is part of the process of making bread. It's a very, very holy and dignified food, and we need to deal with it. We need to handle it appropriately as well. Halacha number 9. Also lizrok pas. It is forbidden to throw bread. Afilu b'makom she'eino nimos, even in a way that does not render it undesirable or repulsive. You're throwing it to someone here, just flip the bread. Now there are some hazrika hi bizayon, because the act of throwing it in itself is a degradation of the bread. Vishar mine ochlim, regarding other foods, the halacha is imnim asin ali de hazrika, if they are rendered repulsive by being thrown, asal zarkon. You're not allowed to throw them. So, for example, some people like to throw food up and catch it in their mouth. Very skilled, very talented. But what happens if it falls on the ground? You take a grape and you throw it and you catch it. Great, everyone's like, woo, good job. But what happens if it falls on the floor? It splatters and becomes disgusting. And now it's inedible. So now you just wasted food. And that would be a biblical prohibition. So a person has to be very careful about that. Also luzokon, then it's forbidden to throw them. Aval im eino nimasin, but if, for example, an orange, you throw an orange. I remember there was a question, something you may not have known about me. We mentioned, before going live, we mentioned about my childhood. So one of the things about my childhood is I used to ride a unicycle. I used to juggle fire on a unicycle. Either way, but the question always came up, are you allowed to juggle food? Are you allowed to juggle food? Well, here the halacha says, if by it falling, it would become repulsive, it would get ruined, so then you can't do it. So an apple that falls becomes dented, and it's like no one's going to want to eat that. An orange, on the other hand, maybe you are allowed to, okay? Because it still has a shell, it doesn't necessarily get ruined in the process if it were to fall, okay? But a person should still be cautious. But in the case where, like nuts, if a nut falls on the floor, it's not getting ruined. It still has a casing. It has a shell. So in such a case, that would be okay for one to throw. Lo yeshev al sak shel sheyesh baperes. A person should not sit on a sack that contains fruits. Shenim osam al yidei kach, because now they become repulsive by someone sitting on them. Ein notlinis yadav beyayin. A person should not wash his hands with wine, or bishar mashke, or with any other beverage, mishum bizayin, because it's a degradation to the beverage. Kisharoa eza ochel, when a person sees a food, munach ala oretz, lying on the ground, tzarich lagbio, you must pick it up. You see food on the ground, it's a degradation to the food. The food doesn't have feelings. We already learned this about the Challah. The Challah is teaching us to have sensitivity. We cover the Challah when we recite the Kiddush. Why? Because we don't want to embarrass the Challah. Or the Challah is going to get hurt. It's going to get insulted. Challah doesn't have feelings. True. We do. We need to learn to have sensitivity for the food around us, for the things, the human beings around us as well. Ma'achal shehu ra'ui la'adam, food that is fit to be eaten by humanity, by mankind, ein ma'achilin osel behema, should not be fed to animals, mishum bizu oichlin, because such an action would be a denigration to the food. Halacha number 10. Im tzarach lasos ezu refuah b'pas, if a person needs the bread for medicinal purposes, bishar dvar machol, or any other types of food that are used for medicinal purposes, afal pi shenimos bekach mutar, even if it becomes repulsive, and now you're not going to be able to eat that food, whatever's left over, still, because it's for medical purposes, it is permitted. Halacha number 11, yizar me'od biperun, a person should be very careful with breadcrumbs. Shlo yizrkem, that a person should not throw them to a place where they will be trampled upon. This is a known thing. One may, however, discard such crumbs into water since they would not be put in a position of being trampled or degraded. Some authorities forbid the discarding of an amount of crumbs that is equal to kezayis, which is about 0.6 to 1.1 fluid ounces of bread, even when they are not being trampled. Dekoshalanius, since this action of stepping on bread, you hear this? Very, very powerful, has a negative effect of causing poverty. If one steps on crumbs, Ella yikaptim v'yitnim la'ofos. Rather, one should gather them together and give them to birds. Right? You see crumbs on the floor, don't step on them. Don't step on crumbs. Why? Because it has a negative effect of causing poverty. Shasamayim, one who's drinking water, lo yishte b'fnei rabbim, should not drink facing the public. Ela yafoch panav, but rather should turn their face to the side before drinking. Ubishar mashkin, but with regard to other beverages, ein tzarich lafoch panav, one does not need to turn their face to the side. Ein mistaklim b'fnei ha'ochel v'hashosa, one should not stare into the face of one who is eating and drinking. V'lo b'chelko shelafanov, nor at his portion that is in front of him, kidei shelo levaisho, not to embarrass them. Don't look at someone else's plate. Don't look at someone else's face while they're eating. And halacha number 14, and we'll stop here. Kol machol umashke shemivin lifnei ha'adam sheyesh lo reach. Any food or drink that is served before a person that produces a savory aroma, v'adam to'ev lo, and the person craves it, tzorich litin mimenu miyad davar muat, the person should immediately give a bite into the food. Lahamishamesh, to the server, lefi shemazik l'adam, because the saliva that comes up is damaging to a person, is harmful to a person. Shero lefanav machal shu misavalo, someone desires it and they crave it and they aren't able to eat it, and he does not eat it. So if there's a very delicious piece of food, it's something that's really has a savory aroma, it gets served and people are salivating, person should take a bite from it, because it's an amazing thing that the body produces the saliva that is required for every food that's eaten, because that's the beginning process of the body's digestion system. Already the saliva begins it, and if a person is not supposed to swallow that saliva, a person should be very careful about that. Lo yitin adam lechol elul mishu yodea bo sheyitol yadav yivarach. One should not give anyone to eat unless he knows about him that he will wash his hands, if it is bread, and recite the blessing upon the food. Okay, so this concludes today's section of Siman number 42. Next week, God willing, we will conclude the rest of the Siman from 16 to halacha number 24, I believe it is, to halacha number 23. So, God willing, next week we'll resume this. And now we are going to turn the floor to the Ask Away segment of our Everyday Judaism podcast, where you, each of you, my friends, can ask your questions, any question, and I will do my best to answer them. And it's Ask Away number 30. My dear friends, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you in the next broadcast.
You've been listening to Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe on a podcast produced by Torch, the Torah Outreach Resource Center of Houston. Please help sponsor an episode so we can continue to produce more quality Jewish content for our listeners around the globe. Please visit torchweb.org to donate and partner with us on this incredible endeavor.